So I thought I would do a video series with you guys and breaking it down into what's good about these, what's bad about these. Let's clean this up, let's remove the spikes, let's unpot this, let's see what's in this, let's repot these up so they're going to last long term, and we'll give this spider plant a good healthy home as well. So that's coming up on this video series. Hello YouTube, welcome back. This is part 3 here. So we are going to be working with this orchid planter again. If you missed part 1 and 2, we discussed the pros and cons about these orchid planters. And if you missed the second video, we removed a lot of the dead, dying flowers. And we talked about what's the proper way to remove an orchid flower spike, a Phalaenopsis orchid spike, and give you some options for that, whether you're cutting it right off, you're cutting it half off, or you're leaving it for a little bit longer. So now that we've done that, we're going to investigate what is in this planter, and we're going to jump right into this. And I think the safest thing to do is start with the least valuable thing in here. No offense to these spider plant growers out there, but we're going to try our best to remove the spider plant first. So, as I said, I have no idea what's actually going to happen in here. No idea what's going on in this planter, but I'm going to try to give you the best view that you can possibly have as you come along for this. I can see lots of orchid roots here. The moss, I haven't watered this since I've got it. I didn't want to do that because I don't know what's under it. This was a sort of save me gift, and so we're gonna do our best to save it. Now I've done videos like this in the past, and the orchid has been in a pot, but I'm not feeling a pot in this, which is kind of good, I guess. This thing, really what I'm digging out here is just lots of sphagnum moss, and it's getting quite wet. Remember I said it was dry on the top? It's getting moist already, just a few inches under the surface. So, and it's quite packed in there tight. Sphagnum moss can be really nice to work with. It can be really hard to work with. Sphagnum moss, if you don't pack it tight enough, holds too much water, and the plants are loose, so they wobble around. If you pack it too tight, it can actually be hard to wet, and it's packed so tight that the plants themselves can't even breathe because we've got so much sphagnum packed in there. So it does look like though that, well, we're finding different things. There goes a leaf. So let's talk about this leaf here. You can see the white spray on the leaves. That is nothing to worry about. Most large manufacturers of plants will spray these plants with systemics. I know that makes some of you cringe, but that's the reality of it. To have nice, beautiful phals like this, you need to be able to control pests and fungus. So I bet you that was some sort of antibacterial, antifungal spray. It would have been washed off the upper leaves, but because that leaf was tucked under the big leaf, it got missed there. So it's, by the time it gets to us, when you see that, it's not like it's still toxic to you. It does have a half-life, so it was relatively inert at that point, I would imagine. So I see no pots in here. It's interesting. These things aren't in little tiny pots, so I'm having a bit of trouble. We've hit a few different medias now. I've pulled out some coconut husk, and the spider plant is still in its original pot of dirt. Well, not pot of dirt, just its original dirt from when it was in a pot. And yeah, I'm just trying to get in with my fingers here and lift this guy back out. I'm sure these haven't been in here too long. So there we go. I'm gonna move that. Here is our spider plant. You can still see it's like in a peat perlite mix, lots of sphagnum moss. As long as it was properly drained and the pot wasn't so big, it could be very happy in that media for quite a while. But we're going to take it back out of that media. And so we're going to put this guy aside for now. I'm going to repot him in something. Why don't we just do this? Here's a pot that was just hanging around here. So I'll stick him in here for now. So then he can go off to the side. We don't forget about him. He's already got a little hanging spider on him, so that's kind of neat. And this guy can just grow in the greenhouse for a while as well. But we'll take him off camera for now and put him down there. So at least now we know we're working with orchids in no pots. Way too much media in there. These things are so overpotted, it's crazy. And to boot, there's no drain hole in this, so they're overpotted and no drainage. The mix is really tight. I've had to work to get to where I'm at. When I dig down with my finger, it's tough to get much of anything out. So it's quite packed, and I think I'm seeing sort of the, I'm getting to something down there as well. I don't know if you can see that. Let's have a look. I'm getting to some sort of plastic down there. Interesting, okay. So let's keep digging out these guys really carefully. Back you back up a little bit so you can see everything. And let's keep going. Tell me if you're not in focus here. I think for these guys, the best thing to do is just try to lift them straight out together, not try to dig anymore. So there's those guys together. And you can see the moss. And it looks like it was just moss with the odd piece of coconut bark in there. Not really enough to do anything. Here's another yellow leaf, so we'll pitch that way into the garbage. And we can lay these guys sort of on our tray here behind. But let's keep digging in this pot and see what was actually in here. Okay. As I say, we just sort of hit this plastic, so now that nothing's in here, what do? They just, to save some probably space and money, they threw plastic pots in there. So we can lift this out. You can see it was a mixture of bark or coconut husk and sphagnum the whole way down. And then at the very bottom, I guess for a little bit of drainage in case you overwater so the roots aren't quite sitting in the water, they have got these horrible disposable pots in here. Oh, I hate these pots. They're big and useless. So I don't know if you've ever got an orchid in this. I just did a video last week of an orchid I bought. And it came in one of these pots, in one of these as well, but it was just one single plant. So they just crammed a bunch of basically old pots, or new pots I'm hoping, into the bottom for drainage. And I'm sure these pots are ultra cheap, so it was cheaper to put them in than moss. But that's interesting how they did the drainage there. I'm happy to see there was something. It would have given you a little bit of a buffer zone in this giant pot as to overwatering, because truthfully, but you're not going to know how much water is in the bottom, so it's going to work for short term. But if you have a heavy hand at watering, that would have totally flooded the orchids eventually. They would have been sitting in water. So the good news is we have got to these guys before that has happened, so they're still nice and healthy orchids, which is what the goal was here in this video, a preemptive video. So there they are, separated. I have to watch out because they put hooks in the bottom of these, so it really can hook the roots. There we go. So there's that hook. I'm not sure why it's like that down there. I guess so it doesn't come back out in shipping. Here's our first plant. Looks nice and healthy. We have 3 leaves on it. Probably not going to be blooming for a while again. Phals always bloom under the 3rd leaf, so 1, 2, 3, and we have blooms under that. So I'm going to have to grow a whole new leaf before it can bloom out of this one here. So I got to get this one growing a leaf before anything else happens to it. So we'll sit that guy on its side. I'm sure the spikes are not going to break there. I'm going to get rid of this big white pot. We'll forget we saw that. I keep them around just for display purposes, but it's just more like a sleeve to put a already potted plant in when I bring it in the house or that. Okay, and there is the other one here. So this one here has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves on it, and it blooms under the 3rd leaf. So 1, 2, 3. It could definitely do 2 more blooms quite easily without any new growth on it. And yeah, so there we go. That is what is inside one of those potted planter things that you get from a florist. Over short to medium term, I think you can make it work. Over a long term, I don't think you could. It's a bit better setup than some of the other ones I've seen. I would have loved to seen a drain hole in the bottom of that. Even if it was set up exactly the same way with a drain hole, it would have been so much better. But there we go. So mounds and mounds of medium packed sphagnum. It smells nice and fresh still. There's no breaking down, nothing like that yet. We definitely got to this in time. So now why don't we repot one of these guys up together and go from there on our next video.